The Great Hall was quiet. 12 species from 12 different worlds sat in their floating platforms, watching the numbers appear on the massive holographic screen above them. The votes were counted. The decision was made. 11 species had voted yes. Only one had voted no, and that vote did not matter because it came from the humans themselves. Admiral Kim Do-yeon stood at the observation deck of the Earth, a vessel called the Horizon. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served Earth for 30 years. He had fought in wars. He had made peace with enemies. But he had never felt as helpless as he did now. Watching strangers decide the fate of his entire species, beside him stood Ambassador Park Yuna. She was younger than him, with sharp eyes and a calm face that never showed her true feelings. She held a small device in her hand that displayed the voting results. "It is done," she said. Her voice was soft but steady. "The Galactic Union has voted to exile Earth from all Union territories. We have 90 cycles to remove all human presence from Union space. After that, the jump gates will be permanently sealed against us." Do-yeon did not respond immediately. He watched the alien delegates on their platforms, speaking to each other, some nodding with satisfaction, others looking away as if they felt some small guilt for what they had done. The charges against humanity were not new. The Union had accused Earth of being too aggressive. They said humans grew too fast, learned too quickly, and asked too many questions. They said humanity had disrupted the balance of power in 3 colonial disputes in just 40 years. They said humans refused to share their military data for assessment. What they really meant was that humanity scared them. "Hi." Counselor Velthus of the Nemirian hegemony rose from his platform. He was a tall creature with pale blue skin and 4 eyes that moved independently. His species had ruled a large portion of the galaxy for over 2,000 years. They were not used to being challenged. "This decision brings me no joy," Velthus announced, though his voice carried a tone that suggested otherwise. "Humanity is a young species. Perhaps too young. They have shown great potential, but also great danger. The Union cannot risk the stability of 1,000 worlds for the ambitions of one. This exile is not punishment. It is preservation." Do-yeon finally turned away from the viewport. "Preservation," he repeated quietly. "They call it preservation when they lock us in a cage." Yuna touched his arm gently. "We knew this was possible. We prepared for this." "Preparation and acceptance are not the same thing," he replied. "The journey back to Earth would take 3 weeks using the Union's jump gates. After that, those same gates would close forever. Humanity would be trapped in their small corner of the galaxy, unable to travel, unable to trade, unable to communicate with the wider universe, or so the Union believed. The Horizon began. Its slow departure from Station Corinth. Around them, other human vessels did the same. Merchant ships, science vessels, diplomatic transports. All of them were leaving. All of them were being forced out like unwanted guests. In the weeks that followed, humanity obeyed the Union's orders. They withdrew from every station, every colony, every outpost in Union space. They said their goodbyes to the few alien friends they had made. They packed their equipment and loaded their ships and left without fighting. Many in the Union took this as proof that they had been right. Humans were dangerous when allowed freedom, but they were weak when confronted with real power. They would fade into irrelevance, trapped behind sealed gates, forgotten by a galaxy that had moved on without them. Counselor Velthus celebrated with a private dinner on his homeworld. He invited other leaders who had supported the exile vote. They raised glasses filled with expensive wine and congratulated each other on handling the human problem so cleanly. "In 100 years," Velthus said, "no one will even remember they existed." Meanwhile on Earth, Admiral Do-yeon stood before the Unified Council of Earth. This was a room filled with the leaders of every nation on the planet. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, scientists. They had all gathered to hear his report. "The exile is complete," he said. "All human personnel have returned home. The jump gates are now sealed. We are cut off from the galaxy." There was silence in the room. Then, slowly, General Kwon Tai-woo rose from his seat. He was an older man with a stern face and a reputation for never showing fear, and the Union believes this is the end of us. He asked. Duhian nodded. They do. Taiwu looked around the room at his fellow leaders. A small smile appeared on his face. Then let them believe it. From the shadows of the council chamber, Dr. Beek Gina stepped forward. She was a small woman with messy hair and glasses that seemed too large for her face. She did not look like someone important, but she was perhaps the most important person on Earth. The Prometheus initiative is ready, she said simply. We can begin full-scale production within 6 months. Yuna, who had accompanied Doyan to the council meeting, raised an eyebrow. How long until deployment? If we push hard, Gina replied, 2 years, maybe less. The leaders exchanged glances. Some looked hopeful. Others looked determined. A few looked almost excited, as if they had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Doyen understood why. For 40 years, humanity had hidden their true capabilities. They had pretended to be primitive newcomers, stumbling through a galaxy of ancient civilizations. They had submitted false data, downplayed their achievements, and played the role of harmless children. It was all a lie. A carefully constructed lie designed to protect them until they were ready. The Union thought they had caged humanity. They thought they had one. They had no idea what was coming. 3 months passed after the exile. The galaxy continued to spin. Stars were born and died. Species traded and argued and made peace and made war. Life went on as it always had, as if humanity had never existed at all. The Nemirian hegemony expanded into 3 new star systems. They built colonies and mining stations and military bases. Councillor Velthas received honors and awards for his leadership during the human crisis. His face appeared on news broadcasts across 1,000 worlds. He was called a hero, a protector, a visionary who had saved the galaxy from a dangerous threat. The insectoid Keth. Collective signed new trade agreements with the merchant guilds. Profits increased. Cargo ships moved freely through jump gates that were now safer than ever before. Without humans causing problems, business was good. On the agricultural world of Tessera 4, a young scientist named Cho Hanna worked in a small research station. She studied the atmosphere of the planet, measuring gases and temperatures and weather patterns. It was boring work, but she enjoyed it. She liked being alone with her instruments and her data. One evening, while reviewing her readings, she noticed something strange. A signal, very faint, almost invisible, buried in the background noise of the universe. It repeated in a pattern that was too regular to be natural. She traced the signal to a point beyond Union sensor range. It was coming from the direction of the sealed Terran gates. The direction of Earth, Hannah reported her findings to her supervisor. A large creature from the Veth species who had little patience for junior scientists. You are seeing ghosts, he told her. The Terran gates are sealed. Nothing can pass through them. Your equipment is faulty. Fix it and do not waste my time again. Hannah wanted to argue, but she knew it would do no good. She returned to her station and deleted the report from the official records. But she kept a copy for herself. She was curious. And curiosity, her mother had always told her, was the beginning of all discovery. Far away. On the border station called Outer Verge, Commander Lee Sunho noticed something else. Gravitational disturbances, small ones, barely detectable, appearing near the sealed Terran gate and then vanishing just as quickly. Sunho was an experienced officer. He had served in the patrol fleet for 20 years. He knew what normal space looked like, and this was not normal. He filed a request for investigation. The response came back within hours. Request denied. The Terran quarantine is absolute. No resources will be allocated to monitoring a sealed zone. Continue standard patrol operations. Sunho read the message 3 times. Then he deleted it and said nothing more. But he kept watching. Every night, he pointed his sensors toward the sealed gate, and every night, he saw the same strange disturbances. Something was happening out there, something the Union did not want to acknowledge. Rumors began to spread. They started in the dark corners of space stations, In the bars and gambling halls where smugglers and traders shared stories over cheap drinks, whispers about ships disappearing near the quarantine perimeter, strange lights in the void, energy readings that made no sense. One merchant captain claimed he had seen a human vessel appear out of nowhere, hang in space for 30 seconds, and then vanish again. He was laughed at and called a liar, but the story spread anyway. A smuggler from the Outer Rim said he had picked up a transmission in Earth's language. Just a few words repeated over and over. "We are watching." He was dismissed as a fool seeking attention, but others remembered his words. Counselor Velthus heard these rumors eventually. He dismissed them without concern. Humans were trapped behind sealed gates. They had no faster-than-light travel of their own. They depended entirely on Union infrastructure to move between stars. Without the gates, they were prisoners in their own solar system. Still, one rumor troubled him more than the others. A message had appeared on his private communication channel. This channel was encrypted with the most advanced security the hegemony possessed. Only 3 people in the entire galaxy knew its address, and yet somehow, someone had sent him a message. It contained only 3 words in Earth's primary language. "Count your stars." Velthus stared at the message for a long time. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he tried to understand its meaning. Was it a threat? A warning? A joke? He deleted the message and strengthened his security protocols. He told himself it was nothing. A hacker, perhaps, or a spy who had stolen the channel address. It had nothing to do with the humans. It could not have anything to do with the humans. They were contained. They were finished. But sleep did not come easy to Velthus that night, or the night after. He found himself looking at star maps, counting the systems under his control, wondering why those 3 words felt so heavy in his mind. Across the galaxy, others were having similar experiences. An admiral of the Keth fleet found a message in his personal quarters that had not been there an hour before. It said, "We remember the vote." A trade minister from the merchant guilds discovered a data file on her personal device. It contained a list of every vote she had cast against human trade rights in the past 40 years. At the bottom was a single sentence: "Balance is coming." None of them reported these incidents. To admit that humans could reach them, could breach their security, could watch them without being seen, that would be to admit that the exile had failed. That was impossible. That could not be allowed, so they stayed silent. They pretended nothing was wrong. They continued their lives and their politics and their comfortable certainty that humanity was no longer a concern. Deep in the sealed zone that had once belonged to humans, something was moving. Something vast. Something patient. The silence of humanity was not the silence of defeat. It was the silence of preparation. And soon, very soon, that silence would end. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, in a facility that did not officially exist, Dr. Beek Gina stood before the greatest achievement in human history. The device was not impressive to look at. It was a ring of metal and crystal, about 50 meters wide, surrounded by cables and computers and monitoring equipment. Engineers in white coats moved around it, checking readings and making adjustments. The air hummed with energy that made Gina's skin tingle. "Power levels are stable," one of her assistants reported. "We are ready for the final test." Gina nodded slowly. She had spent 20 years building this moment. 20 years of failures and breakthroughs, of sleepless nights and impossible problems that somehow got solved. The Union had laughed at human science. They had called it primitive. They had no idea what they were dealing with. Began the sequence, she ordered. The ring began to glow. The hum grew louder. The air in the chamber felt thick and heavy. Then, with a flash of light that was somehow silent, a hole opened in the center of the ring. Not a hole in the metal, but a hole in space itself. Through it, Gina could see stars. Different stars. Stars that were 4 light years away. "Transit successful," her assistant said, his voice shaking with excitement. "We have a stable connection to Proxima Centauri." Travel time was 11.6 seconds. 11 seconds to cross a distance that would take the Union's fastest ships several days. 11 seconds without using any jump gate. 11 seconds of pure, impossible human engineering, the hole closed. The ring powered down, and in the control room, Gina allowed herself a small smile. "Inform the Council," she said. "The Prometheus drive is ready for military deployment." 3 days later, Gina stood before the Unified Council of Earth. The same leaders who had received Admiral Doyen's report 3 months ago now listened as she explained what her team had achieved. "Call it full drive technology," she said, pointing to diagrams on the screen behind her. "Instead of moving through space, we fold space around the ship. We bring the destination to us. It requires enormous energy, but our fusion reactors can handle it. More importantly, it requires no external infrastructure. No gates, no relay stations, no union approval." General Quan Tai-Wu leaned forward in his seat. "How many ships have been equipped with this drive?" Admiral Yun Mingi, commander of Earth's new fleet, answered the question. 300 Wraith-class cruisers are fully operational. Each one carries directed energy weapons that can cut through any known Union shielding. Our own shields use adaptive frequency technology. They analyze incoming attacks and adjust in real time. Nothing the Union has can penetrate them, and the Sovereign. Tai-Wu asked. Minji's expression changed slightly. Something like pride appeared in her eyes. "The Sovereign is ready. 5 kilometers long. Crew of 12,000. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. She is the most powerful warship ever built by any species in this galaxy." Ambassador Park Yuna, who had been listening quietly, raised her hand. "We have the technology. We have the ships. But what is our plan? Are we going to attack the Union? Destroy them as they tried to destroy us?" The room fell silent. It was a question that had been debated for years. Some wanted revenge. Some wanted conquest. The Union had humiliated humanity, treated them like children, and then thrown them away like garbage. Anger was natural. Anger was justified, but it was Admiral Kim Do-yeon, now retired from active duty, but still respected by all, who answered. "We are not going to attack anyone," he said. "Not unless we are forced to. Our goal is not revenge. Our goal is recognition. We want the galaxy to see us as we truly are. Not as primitive newcomers, not as dangerous threats, but as equals. As partners, if they are willing. As a force to be respected if they are not." I nodded slowly. "We show them our power. We demonstrate what we can do. And then we give them a choice." "Exactly," Doyen agreed. "We will appear at their most important gathering, the assembly on Station Corinth. We will show them our fleet. And then we will talk." "And if they refuse to listen?" Yuna asked. Doyen's eyes hardened. "Then they will learn that refusing to listen has consequences. But I believe they will listen. When they see what we have built, when they understand what we can do, they will have no choice." The Council voted unanimously to approve the plan. They called it Operation Sunrise. In 2 weeks, humanity would reveal itself to the galaxy, in shipyards hidden throughout the solar system. 300 cruisers powered up their engines. Crews made final preparations. Weapons were tested. Shields were calibrated. Every detail was checked and double-dash checked. At the center of the fleet, the Sovereign waited. She was beautiful in a terrifying way. Her hull was black and angular, designed to absorb sensor scans and reflect weapons fire. Her engines glowed with blue light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. She was not just a ship. She was a statement. Dr. Gina watched the preparations from her laboratory. She had built the technology that made this possible. Now she could only hope that it would be used wisely. "Do you think they will understand?" her assistant asked. "Understand what?" "That we are not their enemies. That we never wanted to fight them. That all of these weapons and ships and secrets, was only for protection." Gina thought about the question for a long time. "Some will understand," she said finally. "Some will not. The ones who do not, they are the ones I worry about. Because they will see our power and they will feel fear. And fear makes people do stupid things." She turned back to her work. There was still much to prepare. In 2 weeks, humanity would wake up, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Assembly was in session. Representatives from all 12 major species sat on their floating platforms, arguing about trade routes and territorial disputes and all the small matters that seemed so important to them. Counselor Veltus presided over the meeting, his 4 eyes moving from speaker to speaker with practiced patience. It was a normal day. Routine. Boring. Even then, the alarms began to scream. Every sensor on Station Corinth activated at once. Warning lights flashed red. Automated defense systems powered up. The assembly fell into chaos as representatives shouted questions and guards rushed to secure exits. "What is happening?" Velthos demanded. The answer came from the station's tactical officer, a young Keth, whose voice trembled as he spoke. "Ships, Counselor. Hundreds of them. They just appeared. No jump gate activation. No approach vector. They were not there, and then they were. What ships? Whose ships?" The officer's compound eyes reflected the tactical display. "They are human, Counselor. Human warships." Velthus felt the blood drain from his face. "That is impossible. The Terran gates are sealed. Humans cannot leave their system. And yet they are here. 300 vessels in perfect formation, and something else. Something large. Our sensors cannot fully process its dimensions." On the main display, the image appeared. The human fleet spread across space like a dark cloud, their ships unlike anything the Union had ever seen. Sharp angles, black holes, weapons that glowed with strange energy. And at the center, dwarfing everything around it, floated the Sovereign. The dreadnought was 5 kilometers long. It moved with slow, deliberate grace, like a predator that knew it had no natural enemies. Its hull bristled with weapon ports and sensor arrays. Its engines burned with light that seemed to swallow the stars around it. The Union Defense Fleet, stationed around the assembly for protection, looked like toys in comparison. Their commanders issued frantic orders, trying to form battle lines, trying to prepare for an attack that never came because humanity did not fire. They simply waited. After 30 minutes of panic and confusion, a message arrived at the assembly. It was short and formal. The Earth delegation requests permission to address the Galactic Assembly. A shuttle will arrive at Docking Bay 7 in 15 minutes. We recommend you allow it to land. Velthus wanted to refuse. He wanted to order his ships to attack, to destroy this impossible human fleet, to prove that the Union was still in control. But one look at the tactical display told him the truth. The Union's weapons were pointing at the human fleet. The human fleet was not pointing weapons at anyone. They were simply there, calm and patient. Waiting for an answer? The answer, Velthus knew, could only be yes 15 minutes later. A single human shuttle descended through the station's defensive barriers and landed in Docking Bay 7. Security forces surrounded it, weapons raised, hearts pounding. The shuttle door opened. 6 figures in powered armor stepped out first, their movements smooth and silent. They carried no visible weapons, but their armor alone was terrifying, sleek and dark, covering every part of their bodies. Behind them came two people Velthus recognized: Admiral Kim Do-yeon and Ambassador Park Yuna, the same humans who had stood in this assembly 3 months ago. Accepting their exile with quiet dignity, they looked different now. They walked with confidence, with authority. They did not look like exiles returning to beg for mercy. They looked like leaders arriving to deliver judgment. Do-yeon walked to the central platform of the assembly, the platform reserved for species addressing the council, the platform he had been denied 40 years ago. He stepped onto it without asking permission, and no one tried to stop him. 3 months ago, he began, his voice echoing through the silent hall. This assembly voted to exile humanity from the galaxy. You sealed your jump gates. You cut off all communication. You believed you had contained us. He paused, letting the words sink in. You were wrong. The holographic display above the assembly changed. It now showed the human fleet from multiple angles, along with readings that made the Union scientists gasp in disbelief. We developed faster-than-light travel that does not require your gates, Do-yeon continued. We call it full drive technology. We built weapons you cannot counter and shields you cannot penetrate. While you celebrated our exile, we mapped every system you control, every station, every colony. We watched you. We listened to you. We learned everything about you. Velthus found his voice at last. This is an act of war. You have invaded sovereign Union space. You have threatened this assembly. You will be destroyed for this. Doyen turned to look at him. His expression did not change. No, Counselor. This is not an act of war. This is a demonstration. We could have come here with weapons firing. We could have destroyed the station before you even knew we were coming. We did not. Ambassador Yuna stepped forward. She spoke with the same calm she had always shown, but now there was steel beneath her words. Humanity is not here to conquer. We have no interest in your territories. We never did. We only wanted to exist peacefully, to trade and learn and grow alongside you. But you forced this moment. You voted to cage us like animals. You treated us like children who needed to be controlled. She gestured at the fleet displayed above them. So now we are here to show you who we truly are. We are not children. We are not primitives. We are humanity. And we will never again be caged. Doyen took over again. We are prepared to offer terms. Fair terms. Terms that will benefit everyone in this galaxy, not just the powerful species who have controlled it for thousands of years. But first, you must understand one thing. He stepped to the edge of the platform and looked directly at Velthos. You had your vote? You made your choice. Now it is our turn. And unlike your assembly, we do not need permission to act. We will tell you our rules, and you will accept them. Because the alternative counselor is something neither of us wants. The assembly was silent. Every species, every representative, every guard and diplomat and observer in the hall understood the truth. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted, and there was nothing any of them could do about it. The silence in the assembly hall lasted for nearly a minute. Then Ambassador Park Yuna raised her hand, and a new display appeared above the gathered representatives. It showed a document written in the universal language used by all Union species, along with translations for each member world. These are our terms, she announced. They are not negotiable. Counselor Velthus wanted to object. He wanted to scream that humans had no right to demand anything. The Union was still the supreme power in the galaxy, that this display of force meant nothing. But his mouth stayed closed. The image of the sovereign, floating silently outside the station, was burned into his mind. Yuna began to read. First, Earth and all human colonies, present and future, are recognized as a sovereign entity. We are not members of the Galactic Union. We do not answer to the Union's laws. We are independent, with full territorial rights over any system we choose to settle. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Several species had been eyeing the same systems that humans might want. They had assumed those territories would remain unclaimed forever. That assumption was now dead. Second, any act of aggression against humanity, whether military, economic, or political, will be met with proportional response. We do not seek war, but we will defend ourselves and our interests. This assembly has seen what our ships can do. Do not test us. Admiral Kim Do-yeon stepped forward to add weight to the words. We are not threatening you. We are explaining reality. Attack us, and we will respond. Sanction us, and we will find other markets. Try to isolate us again, and we will simply go around you. The choice to have peace with humanity is yours. But it is a choice, not a guarantee, Yuna continued. Third, we offer open diplomatic relations, trade agreements, and scientific exchange with any species willing to engage in good faith. We have technologies that could benefit every world in this galaxy. We are willing to share them, for fair compensation, with partners who treat us with respect. This caught the attention of several smaller species. The Veth, the Tesseri, the Keth, they had all been dominated by the major powers for centuries. The idea of accessing human technology, of having a powerful ally outside the traditional power structure, was attractive. Fourth, Yuna said, and her voice grew harder. Humanity will serve as a neutral arbiter in galactic disputes. For too long, this union has been controlled by 3 species who twist the laws for their own benefit. That era is ending. We will offer mediation services without political bias. We will protect smaller species from being exploited by larger ones. We will bring balance to this galaxy. Velthus could not stay silent any longer. You cannot do this. You have no authority. The Union has maintained peace for 3,000 years. Doyon turned to face him. Peace. Is that what you call it? The Nemirian hegemony has absorbed 40 smaller species in the past 500 years. The Keth Collective controls 60% of all mining operations through predatory contracts. The merchant guilds have bankrupted entire civilizations with their interest rates. Your peace is a lie, counselor. It is the peace of the powerful over the weak. He stepped closer to Velthos, close enough that the counselor had to look up at him. We are not here to destroy your union. We are here to change it. You can either adapt to that change, or you can resist. But know this, if you resist, you will lose. Not because we are stronger, though we are, but because the species you have oppressed for millennia will finally have an alternative. They will come to us, and your precious union will crumble from within. The assembly fell silent again. Doyon's words were not just a threat. They were a prediction, and every species in the room knew there was truth in them. After a long moment, Yuna spoke again. We will give you 1 hour to discuss among yourselves. Then we expect your answer. Accept our terms, and we begin a new era of cooperation. Refuse, and we leave. But we will not disappear. We will be out there, building, growing, waiting. And eventually, you will come to us anyway. She and Doyon turned and walked out of the assembly hall, their armored guards following in perfect step. The representatives watched them go in stunned silence. The hour passed quickly. There were arguments, accusations, threats, and desperate negotiations. The major powers wanted to fight. The smaller species wanted to accept. In the end, mathematics decided the outcome. Even if every Union fleet combined their forces, they could not match what the humans had shown. And that was just the fleet humanity had brought. How many more ships were waiting behind the full drive curtain? The vote was held. 9 species voted to accept. 3 voted to reject. The terms were ratified. In the months that followed, everything changed. Trade routes opened between Earth and a dozen smaller species. Human technology flowed outward. Fusion reactors and medical advances and agricultural techniques that transformed struggling colonies into thriving worlds. In return, humanity gained access to resources and knowledge they had been denied for 40 years. The Nemirian hegemony quietly reduced its military expansion. Velthus retired from politics, citing health reasons. The new High Counselor was more pragmatic, more willing to work with humanity rather than against them. The Keth Collective renegotiated their mining contracts under pressure from their own workers, who now had alternatives. The merchant guilds reformed their lending practices after losing 3 major clients to human banks offering better terms. Ambassador Park Yuna became the first human to sit on a reformed galactic council, one that actually represented all species equally. She worked tirelessly to build bridges, to heal old wounds, to create a galaxy where no species had to fear exile for being different. Dr. Beekjina continued her research, pushing the boundaries of full-drive technology even further. She dreamed of ships that could cross the entire galaxy in minutes, of connections between species that had never met, of a future where distance meant nothing. General Quan Tai Wu and Admiral Yun Minji trained a new generation of officers, not for conquest, but for peacekeeping. Human ships patrolled disputed territories, preventing conflicts before they started. They became guardians, not conquerors. And Admiral Kim Do-yoon, he retired to a small home in the mountains of Korea, on Earth. He planted a garden. He watched the stars at night. He remembered the faces of friends lost and enemies defeated. One day, a young reporter came to interview him. She asked what humanity's ultimate goal was. What did they truly want from the galaxy? Doyan smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. To be left alone when we wish it, he said. To be welcomed when we seek it. And to never, ever be underestimated again. He looked up at the sky, where 300 ships had once gathered to change the course of history. We are humanity, he said softly, and we make our own rules.